All right, Britney's book. Here are my takeaways. Oh, Britney. Oh, baby, one more time. That book was juicy, juicy, and it's a quick read, 5 hours long. Um, or if you listen to the Audible, and there's a volume two coming. At first, I was like, wow, why is this book only 5 hours? Like, I've been reading. I read Jada Pinkett's book. I think it's like 16 hours. I'm reading Will Smith's book. It's like 15, 16 hours also. Harry's book is 16 hours. So I feel like 16 hours is the normal like memoir, but hers is like 5 hours. It's like, this is a great business strategy because you're still going to make the same money. And like, you might as well do it in installments because people are going to want to listen and hear. And because it's Britney Spears. And you get to make the money three times, like however many times she releases it. So I think it's a great business strategy. At first I was upset about it, but it's actually quite interesting. Now let's talk about some interesting, juicy details about Britney's character in the book and the unfortunate realities of the abuse or the contrast of this woman being taken advantage of. One thing about Britney is that I feel like her songs were really true to who she was, what she was experiencing, and also sometimes what she was going to experience in the beginning, in the future. I think about some of her songs like, Lucky. Isn't she lovely, this Hollywood star? And they say she's so lucky, she's a star, but she cries in her lonely heart. Think her lonely heart thinking. That song is literally Britney's life, and I'm sure she was living it out then. And she doesn't really talk about her sort of sadness in her early life, but she talks about it during the what was it called again? Conservatorship. And so that's that, right? Then there was I'm a Slave for You. She literally was a slave for her father and her family. But Britney's book is so interesting because on one side, she was incredibly abused. I don't know, incredible is the word, but it was just like devastatingly abused by her family and exploited. And 13 years is a long time. They took her soul out of her. All hope was lost. Britney has very interesting themes in her life. One thing, and this is going to be a lesson for everybody who's watching about life. Some things that I've seen in life, and I'm going to use some of my knowledge about life to just kind of explain some of those Britney situations. So there are three components to Britney's book. The first is, or there are three atrocities in her book. The first is her relationship with Justin Timberlake. The second is her relationship with Kevin Federline. And the third is her relationship with her father, family, and the conservatorship. Because she starts out by saying her childhood was okay. It was not terrible. Yes, her father was this crazy alcoholic. That was a preface, right? Her father was this crazy alcoholic, but it was bearable. Her childhood was okay. The fame came, all beautiful fairy tale story. She hustled her way, became this global superstar. But it's so interesting to see how no matter how famous somebody is, they are just regular people. And that's what Britney conveyed in her book. That's what Jada Pinkett conveyed in her book. That's what Harry conveys in his book. Will Smith did not convey that in his book, but potentially because some people claim he's a narcissist, but whatever. But when I don't know that that's true, but people claim so. I wouldn't say that he conveyed that he was a normal person in his book. He was definitely always hyping himself up, but he did convey his core wounds in life. And so perhaps that's it. So all of these people are conveying that I am just a human being like everybody else. I am a boring human. That is an interesting component about Britney's book, right? But then she gets into this relationship with Justin Timberlake, and they met at the Mickey Mouse Club. He was her first kiss in the Mickey Mouse Club, and she talks about how Justin used her. She didn't say this directly, but she kind of did. He used her as a stepping stone to become a mega superstar. Let's talk about it, right? At least I was living in the UK. NSYNC were not hot, and we didn't know what they were in the 90s. It was Backstreet Boys. NSYNC became hot in around 2001 when we started knowing about them, and that's when he was dating Britney. I know in America he was probably loved and known, but he really wasn't known. Like NSYNC wasn't known or internationally really until, I mean, like mega superstars, until Justin started dating Britney. Let that sink in. And now he has this, so she has this atrocity that happens to her. Okay, wait, she gets pregnant. And then, it was so terrible. This scene is so bad. But she gets pregnant, and obviously, you know, they're young. They don't want to keep it. I think they're like 19 or something. Of course, it's understandable. She was okay keeping it, but he didn't want to keep the child. He didn't want it. And so they decide to have an abortion. But catch this. He's like, no, you can't go to a doctor to have an abortion. So they end up like giving her abortion pills in her house. Her and Justin shared a house in Orlando, in the house. And she like was in the most excruciating pain of her life on the bathroom floor, yelling and screaming as she was having this abortion. And Justin is there, like, starts playing guitar music for her. I know, like, it's funny because he can't help. What can he do? But I guess he did what he could, which was like, let me play some music and sing to you, play the guitar and sing to you like a romantic. But what the hell does that do? I don't know if Britney was kind of being condescending and telling us that story, but if that's what happened, it happened. But it makes Justin look like an insensitive asshole. So that was that. But here's how Justin used her as a stepping stone. So he cheated on her. She claims that he cheated on her with by 7 people that she knew of, right? And this is not even like when they broke up, before, like he was cheating around, that she heard about 7 people. And think about it. He was in this pop group. They were touring around the world. It was probably way more than 7 people. And she never cheated. She said she did kind of cheat, but she kissed Dwayne Robinson. She didn't even have sex with him. She claimed she kissed him. What does Justin do? They resolved the matter together. She confessed to him. They resolved the matter. But what does Justin do? He uses that material of Britney Spears and decides to use it as a stepping stone to build his career and make himself a superstar. Because Justin Timberlake was, with NSYNC became poppin' after he started dating Britney Spears. Then Justin dropping this album with Britney associated and dogging her in it, that's what shot him into mega superstardom. And you know how you can see, because he can't maintain it. Justin acted like, oh, he was done with music and he's too good to make music and he's pausing for music. That was I don't know, from 2005. But tell me why, you have dropped hits and you've dropped songs, not hits, sorry. You've dropped songs and nobody's heard about it. Do you think Britney could drop a song and we won't hear about it? The fact that Justin has to use NSYNC right now for clout just shows you the lack of talent. Well, he has talent, but the lack of superstardom that he has, because there's a difference between superstardom and talent. Britney is a superstar. Christina Aguilera is talent. All these people, Justin Timberlake, talent, not superstar. Britney, no matter what. And I think it's interesting because, Britney and Christina, that's another conversation. I think low-key Britney doesn't like Christina. I think that it's one of those situations where she's not even going to give Christina a mention in her book. She mentions her, but she never gives a comment about what she thinks about Christina. And I think that's intentional. I think it's one of my friends who's an influencer basically told me that there is a power in your silence. People want to be acknowledged by you. And when you don't acknowledge your existence, there is a power in that. And I think that's exactly what Britney was doing with Christina. She did not want to give Christina any clout, any recognition. This is somebody that she shared a locker room with in the Mickey Mouse Club for 2 years. She will say Christina was there, or I shared a locker room with Christina. Then I walked down the street and this happened. She never talk about Christina more than just she wouldn't even make a comment about her, an opinion around Christina. To me, that just tells me Britney doesn't rate her. And an interesting thing is, I think when they were kids, Christina probably had the confidence because her voice is crazy, that I'm going to be a bigger star than all of these people. But it was funny because Britney Spears, who, okay, she could dance, okay, she could sing. She's not the best singer, but look at how much more of a bigger star she is than anyone. It just shows that from, I think, the digital era, it was not just music that made you a star. Let's get back to Justin Timberlake and this theme that I'm talking about. I'm not losing my train of thought. This theme I'm talking about, I'm going to land this plane. Justin Timberlake used Britney Spears as a stepping stone. Now, who else used Britney Spears as a stepping stone? Her husband, KFed, this loser nobody. He was actually a dancer for Michael Jackson and all these people. Latches onto Britney, hides the fact that he's married with kids from her, but she acted like she was innocent. She was not so innocent. You know, you look into the research. She married him 3 months after, I think, his baby was born from Shar Jackson. So she knew about it, and she continued the relationship. But I get it. If you're young, you're in love with him, and he gave her so much safety because she said he just used to hold her all the time. But he used all the fame and attention he got from Britney. He started making his music, his rap. He was trying to be a rapper, which is so funny and laughable. But he was trying to be a rapper, and then he would just like ignore Britney, not answer her calls, like security that she paid for. He would tell them to not let her into like his hotel rooms or not let her into his studio sessions, and just like completely ignoring the stepping stone. So like it's another person that used Britney as a stepping stone to build their career and not give her any credit for her, but instead threw her under the bus by taking her children away from her. He probably did more atrocities to her than Justin Timberlake. Justin Timberlake caused her emotional and physical pain. She said she was like silent for like months after Justin. Like literally, she could not even speak. She had a mental breakdown after Justin. That's how much she loved him. So that was devastating pain for her. Then KFed was an actual bigger pain because he took away her children. Can't even imagine what that happens. Then the last pain was her parents, her father, and the conservatorship. They tried to convince her that they would help her get her kids if she signs off on a conservatorship. Once they did that, they controlled every aspect of her life. What she was allowed to eat, they refused. They made sure that she always had to eat healthy. They wouldn't even give her a piece of chocolate. She was not allowed to drink alcohol. And you know how the media made her seem like she was an alcoholic? She wasn't even an alcoholic. She said all she took was Adderall. That whole what do they call it? Bimbo gate. When Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan, and Britney all come together in the car when they were partying. She's like, she didn't even do drugs, you know. And I think what she claimed is, and when she cut her hair, that incredible scene, is because they took her children away from her and she went crazy. That's a normal thing. It's so interesting because back then we just didn't normalize, or we dehumanized people. We didn't understand mental health, and we didn't understand all these things. And when she talks about it, when you're reading the book and the way that we've evolved in our mental health conversations and our relatability of humanity, it seems very plausible that all she did was cut her hair because they took away her kids. How about people that actually kill people for their children, right? So the media made her out to be this crazy person, but in reality, this is a woman that her children were taken away from her. That's the biggest pain that any mother could ever face. So that's that. And we have Britney just being abused by Kevin in this way, but then, okay, her father and her family. Now, they controlled how she was able to see her children. Her father was this alcoholic, abusive individual, and yet he was granted conservatorship. And they had, another part was them lying to Britney about the fact that she couldn't pick her own lawyer, but that's another conversation, right? That's a conversation about Britney as a victim. And that's the second half of this video. But in this part, we're just talking about how her father used her, right? And her family. And they would design her contracts to make sure they controlled her estate and her money. And they would, and they only gave her $2,000, design her contract to ensure that they could they could make so much money out of her. And they didn't even reward her or anything. It was just like, you have to go do this tour. You have to go do this. They controlled her music. They didn't even let her innovate in her music, in her performances, and nothing. They didn't let her innovate. And because it was almost like this idea that if she innovated, she would have this boldness and want to, break away from her father. So he didn't want to empower her even in creativity, which just took the soul out of her, right? Took the soul out of her and took the soul out of her music. So she claims her music was trash in that period of time. Britney is not capable of making trash music. So if that was your trash music, that's very impressive. But they used her like a slave. like a hamster in a wheel to generate so much money and had no regard for her in her life. And it's so crazy to me that a father can do this to their daughter. It's crazy. What kind of human being would do that to their child? And not even their child, their daughter, their woman, right? But what is this theme here that's going on with Britney? Now let's get into this deeper part. And I believe that the universe will keep repeating things until you heal from it. The universe will keep repeating situations in your life until you heal from it. These are 3 occasions when Britney Spears was used as a stepping stone to propel somebody's fame and or wealth. This happened with her first romantic relationship, Justin Timberlake. At least her first serious, I think he was her first serious relationship. This happened with her first husband, KFed. And this happened with her father. And even reading the book, you can tell that Britney has not healed. And she acknowledges it at the end of the book, that she has a lot of healing to do. I can't even imagine how she could heal. 13 years of controlling every aspect of your life. They took her phone. They looked at everything on her phone. They looked at all her browse histories. They controlled everything, they bugged all her messages, all her calls, everything they heard. They controlled every aspect of her life. What she was allowed to watch, when she was allowed to watch something, when she was allowed to leave the house, when she was allowed to do anything. They literally like a prison mate. They controlled every part of her life. I was watching an interview that she did with this UK talk show host, and he asked her this question. This was like 2013. I watched it recently, but he asked her about if she goes to the parties in Vegas, and she was like, "Oh no, drugs." And it's when you watch it back then, you might have thought, "Oh, why is she saying oh no, drugs? Is she like sober because she was a drug addict?" But in reality, it's because how much they controlled every aspect of her life, and they stopped her from taking drugs, even though she wasn't taking drugs. But they would drug test her if she was even taking a workout supplement. They would put her in rehab. That's the level and extent of abuse that Britney experienced under her father's governorship or conservatorship. Just absolutely, it was just so horrific. You just have to go watch it and read it. But I think the interesting component to that, to me, is the universe will keep repeating the same thing until you heal from it. And I think writing this book for Britney may be cathartic. She's very clear that she's not healed. When you read the book, she acknowledges that she doesn't even know she's going to get healed, but she's just come out of this extreme trauma that she's had. Ironically, a lot of people, the trauma happens when in their childhood. Hers happened during her fame. And it's going to be interesting to watch her journey. So there were some interesting components to this that I thought, because I read Jada Pinkett Smith's book, and I'm going to review that. I'm reading Will Smith's book so I can give context of both sides of the story, right? But when it comes to Jada, you could tell that this is a woman that's healed. This is a woman that takes accountability, and Britney takes no accountability. And that's one of the parts of the book that was difficult for me to read, because just the way that I can't really relate to the experience that Britney has, because I'm not designed as a person to even allow that happen in the first place. Like, I really believe in nip it in the bud. And I would have fought in so many ways. If I could leave the country and never come back, run away, I would have run away with my children. Like, I don't play that. If I was stupid enough to sign the conservatorship, right? If I was stupid enough to do that. And the fact that they told her, this is the part of Britney that I just think is crazy. Her family told her that the court has to pick her lawyer. They told her, and she believed that for 13 years. I don't know, because I'm a journalist, information is so important to me. And trust, but verify. If somebody tells you that, go verify it. People are liars. You mean to tell me for 13 years you never Googled if you are allowed to keep your own lawyer in a conservatorship? Are you telling me that you didn't even ask your lawyer if it's possible for you to choose your own lawyer? If that was the only person in your corner? You're telling me for 13 years you couldn't ask anybody. So that's the part of the lack of accountability that I see in Britney. There's a lot of woe is me, I'm a victim, oh poor me in the whole book. And I get it. She was rightfully a victim. We haven't heard all sides of the story, But but you can see she lacks accountability, because even in the positions where she was clearly an oppressor, stealing Star Jackson's husband or baby daddy, and breaking up her family and ruining her family. You should watch some videos that they break down how Britney ruined her kids' lives. Bullying in schools, paparazzis everywhere, and broke Star Jackson's heart. Britney doesn't take any accountability for that. She kind of sweeps under the rug like, oh, I didn't know about it. I found out later on when we were dating, and somebody told me about it, and I asked him, and I couldn't believe it. But she still married him 3 months later. So there's a pattern of a lack of accountability that's coming from Britney. And she does acknowledge that she is a child, because she was treated like a child all her life, specifically and especially under the conservatorship. She was treated like a child. So how does anyone expect her not to act like a child? Unfortunately for her, she is this 41-year-old child that's going to take her some time, now that she has freedom and probably has severe PTSD. It's going to be interesting to see how she evolves out of this childhood. A 41-year-old child, literally. So she doesn't take accountability, and that's what children don't take accountability. And that's the difference between her and Jada Pinkett. So for me, it's going to be very, very, very interesting to see and hear if Britney has healed. But before her to heal, she has to learn to take accountability. And because of the way that I am wired, it was difficult to continue to listen to the book. And not only the atrocities that were done to her, which I acknowledge, but the lack of accountability. Because I believe that nothing happens to you that you don't allow. And that's you giving yourself the power of your destiny. She allowed herself to become a conservator, to get into the conservatorship. She allowed herself to do that. She could have nipped it in the bud, but she went forth with it. She allowed so many things to happen to her that could have been nipped in the bud and stopped. And of course, yeah, this is her life story. It's her testimony to tell people. And it's a powerful thing that she's given this life story to the world. And I do feel bad for Britney. I'm just saying, I would like to see the next stage of her life as she comes into her adulthood for her to be accountable. I'd like to see that. And I do feel sorry for her and everything she's experienced. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. You're watching The Kenamo Show, and I'm your host, Kenamo, and I'll see you next time. Peace.